And hetanani to our web audiences. We are very, very excited to share this final program of the weekend with you. We have Concow-Maidu poet Janice Gould here to do a contemporary version of storytelling with her poetry and spoken word.
Oh, I'm going to have a tiny audience. How's that? Yes. You can hear me, can you not? Very good. Thank you so much for being here in the audience. And all my relatives, thank you very much for being here today. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, Cora English, for inviting me. My relatives are from the Concow region up in the Feather River area. My great-great-grandfather was Dr. Charlie. He was from Berry Creek, and his wife, Emma Charlie. Their daughter, Mary Charlie, married my grandfather, who'd come over from Ireland, Thomas Beatty, one of the first gold miners up in the region. On my mother's side, they were all married. They were all related to the Lee family. Jim Lee, Catherine Lee, and Susan Lee. Susan married Charlie Belden and established the town of Belden, a little mining town up in the Feather River country. So those are my claims to fame. Catherine Lee lived out on at Cherokee and Yankee Hill. And these are all regions in the Sierra Nevada, in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada. But my mom was adopted. And so she didn't have, her mother passed away when she was about 5 years old. So she had relatives up in the mountains and would go up frequently to see everybody. But really the family sort of scattered after their mother passed away. And she had quite a big family. She had 6 sisters and 7 brothers. And they didn't all survive, but it was a hard time for California Indians during this period. My mom was born about 1912. And so their family was old. They were all born in the 19th century and then early 20th century. So I grew up urban in Berkeley, California. And so a lot of my work really deals with urban life, not so much the life up in the mountains, although I had my own sort of rural life as well. So I'm going to read a poem called I Learned a Lesson About Our Society. And this is maybe one of these urban poems from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. I learned a lesson about our society. Late November, on our way to work, you pulled the cord and the bus stopped this side of the Alameda Tube. I've got to get out of here, you told me abruptly. Please don't follow me. I looked in your face, but you wouldn't look back. You were nervous, your eyes moving everywhere. I'll phone, you said. I watched you push your way through the press of students, secretaries, the 8 a.m. crowd on their way to work. Eyes glazed, you stepped off the bus. I didn't know then it was epilepsy that jerked you to your feet and like a pistol against the skull compelled you to walk, making your way to 14th Avenue, your jaw clamped as if it had been wired closed. You knew places where you could abort the attack with heroin, back porches where men of every color shot up, a hard gang of hard asses, and you, skinny and tough as the boy you wished you could be. Those were times of no time for you, week-long blackouts in which you lost all trace of your history, name, or family. Your kids would be alone in the house, eating cold hot dogs and white bread. They were used to taking care of themselves. After an attack, you woke here or there and had to find your way home, Sometimes you came to on the stone-cold floor of a cell. Other times, like that day, you ended up in the hospital on some ward in the basement, strapped down on a table. The nurses and orderlies abused you, kept the restraints on you for hours. They despised you for being an addict, a queer, at the mercy of an illness. It was then I learned things I never knew before, that privilege is a form of ignorance, that the poor are the enemy of the state, and not the poor alone, but the sick, criminal, crazy, queer, young, old, and disabled, no matter what color we are, no matter what language we speak. Every person, I suppose, must come to this understanding. It's not your right to question the police, the army, any number of authorities. If you pass, sucker, it's because they let you pass. And I have you to thank for this, my friend. Though in the end we broke up like any couple where jealousy is involved. I, who thought I was so butch, got tired of playing mistress to your drugs. You were married to a poison you loved almost better than life itself. It happened 3 weeks later, Christmas nearly upon us, fake ice in the windows, fake snow, and the yellow glare of lights around the lots of cut trees. The usual cold fog had rolled down from Sacramento. Out on the Nimitz freeway, you began to pound my arm. Oh, please, God damn it, please, you kept saying. Then you cracked the windshield with your fist, and I took the next exit, obedient, while you directed me to the house on that particular dirty street. I waited in the car, watching the children, the drunks, listening to sirens, jet noise, the freeway. When you came out, you were happy, calm as a butterfly who had closed her wings. Days without you. Days without you, I collect myself around my work, writing, reading old philosophers who make nonsense out of everything. All I want to do is gaze out the window at the cottonwoods across the way. Their green leaves shimmer in the morning heat, and the whir of cicadas begins like the sound of the hunchback's wild flute that travels out of Indian time on the immemorial wind. A cluster of blue clouds is formed behind the mountains. When I drive out to the airport to meet you, I feel a little crazy. Everywhere the graffiti of murderous boys is scrawled on bullet-punctuated walls. Neighborhoods crumble beneath signs for liquor, real estate, and cigarettes. Then the squared lines of the airport rise up, and I enter this antiseptic world of new buildings. The floors have been polished, the pastel tiles glow. I wait for you this rainy August evening, nervous and alert. When you disembark from the plane, you are smiling and pretty, but as always, we pretend to be just friends and walk out together, barely touching. It is only in the underground parking where no one can see our passion that you suddenly lean over to me and open your mouth against mine. Then there is such a rush that my heart lunges, and I'm shy and in love with you, woman who shares my life. Later, driving up Central, you put your hand on my thigh and the same thing happens. Life is good, you say. Don't you wish we were rich? But we are. We're rich and foreign as the dinner we just ate off hot, solid plates, edged with the piquancy of sauce and hard tears of garlic, graced with basil and thyme to a perfect measure, fresh as the pale butter, crusty loaf, and earthy wine. Yes, my dear, dear, dear beloved, who isn't with me sadly today. I lived for a year or so in Oregon where I worked on a ranch and I worked in a cannery and I did a lot of things looking for myself. I was quite young and You know, I'd come from Berkeley. Berkeley was all kind of up in arms, and there was all kinds of tumult going on politically. Tear gas was being thrown every day, and it was just kind of a mess. Up University Avenue, Ronald Reagan had sent the armed tanks, the National Guard, and they were locking down our city. And I had to escape. I just didn't like the violence. So I moved up to Oregon for a while where I worked. So these are a set of Oregon poems. Near Mosier, Oregon. 1. My bed's where the tack gets stored, saddles and hackamores, curry combs and bits. The good scent of horse sweat, wool, and leather pervades my dreams. Nights I can't sleep, I look out the window at the span of heaven, the amber light of stars that glow in the blackest sky. Or turn the dial on the Bakelite radio, pick up a wavering signal from Salt Lake across the plains, or from San Francisco, down the coast, over the Cascade Range. A blur of voices, barking preacher, sober newsman, the slick auctioneer, all mix with the cadence of country swing. But when the wind rises and stirs the boughs of the canyon oak outside my window, I tune to finer things. Rustle of leaves, winking pulse of stars, the shape of the wind. 2. Summer and there's hay to mow and bale and various fields, 12 acres here, 6 in Hood River. I buy new work boots in the Dalles after my dude boots give out. 3 weeks of walking every field each day, dragging and stacking the bales with hay hooks for later transport to the barn. The old lady up the hill jokes that I want to be John, not Jan, because I don't do girly things, but would rather drive the tractor, learn to ride, throw a rope, and roll my own smokes. The 2 dogs are my friends, Tip and Jack, and the barn cat, who has no name. I'm a little in love with the boss's wife. She's pretty and sweet. Often I lie at the canyon's edge, dreaming, looking over the bluff at the old defunct highway full of rubble, watching a train or the river go by, hoping no one close to me will know how much I want to die. 3. I don't actually want to die. Do I have a right to live? It's been hammered into me that I'll be spurned by a real woman, the only kind I like, that I'll end up in some bar, a drunk, old and cynical before my time. I'll never find a place to work, will never be accepted, I'm told, as long as I refuse to curl my hair, thin my eyebrows, or shave my legs. There's no place for me unless I renounce my crazy longings, my willful, selfish ways that dictates of my own benighted heart. Near Mosier, another morning. This morning, the half-ton Holstein, heavy with calf, barrels through the barn door and lumbers into her stanchion. Fearless, I squat near her on the T-shaped milking stool made with scraps of 2x4. I rub flecks of dirt from her udders, lean into her warm flank and massage down the creamy milk, aiming the stream into a steel bucket I've placed beneath her. Suddenly, I'm hungry. Back in the house, the boss's wife is cooking hot cakes and bacon. A fresh pot of coffee's percolating. Walking to the barn not 10 minutes ago, I could see the Union Pacific as it rounded a curve on the Washington side of the Columbia, its headlight flaring into the river's recesses and across our Oregon hills. The first striations of morning light were shooting through the clouds on the horizon, glowing magenta, fiery yellow, turning the sky salmon-colored and luminous. Sunrise arches over the far hills in Klickitat County, filtering through the open window of the barn. The pungent smell of tarweed rises from the pasture, mixing with the far-off smell of pine, scrub oak, and upturned loam. The Holstein shifts her weight. She sighs as I pull down the tepid milk. My hands are stronger now than when I first came to work here in the spring. My fingers no longer ache from this daily task that takes a full quarter hour. The cat's suddenly nudging my elbow, awakened from her perch on the highest bale in the hayloft. I've checked for rattlers in the dim light, nary a one. Consider how I haven't yet lost a bucket of milk or my balance to the cow's hind leg. As always, wind blows at the lava-edged rim of the gorge, where the pale camas flowers poke through the thin soil, and hundreds of feet below the cliffs, the semi-trucks steam eastward on the interstate. I'm comfortable wearing someone else's shirts and pants, hand-me-downs from my employer, and a pair of Tony Lama boots I've saved up to buy, sturdy enough for this farm work. I don't know my destiny, and I don't know how to love anyone or how to be loved. I'm undeserving. Out there, no one knows this. I could be smart or stupid, but I don't believe I can be anything I want. So I give myself wholly to the moment, to the trees, the cool wind, the harsh bluffs, and to the copper-colored river glinting with light and shadows, blue and silver. I think I might have time for one more poem. I taught for years as an adjunct in community colleges and worked with a lot of immigrant students, and I just really loved it. And sometimes my students gave me gifts. So this is a gift from my students. My students, Min and Hua, sit across from me in the little restaurant on Sandy Boulevard where Min works weekends. It is evening, after our last class at the community college, and I am their guest. They confer quietly in Vietnamese, suggest a salad of papaya and shrimp or can chua ga, chicken soup with tomatoes and pineapple. It is very good, says Min. I smile while they press me to select several things: seafood with lemongrass, grilled beef with crushed peanuts, noodles, and rice. In our country, says Hua, we celebrate National Teachers' Day. Teachers are given a day off, and their pupils come to their houses to thank them. I imagine the streets alive with students marching in groups, laden with small gifts of food, books, sheaves of paper trimmed in gold leaf, poems they have written. Everywhere in that mild country, the learners are laughing and talking, standing shyly and excitedly at their teachers' doors. Lovely scholars, you are earnest and study hard. You do not despise the ones who tutor you. No one has told you how utterly expendable I am. But tonight, we celebrate, tell stories, savor the sweet and sour. Thank you so much for being my audience.
Just want to say Nimwenen, Janet, and thank you so much for being here. It has truly been an honor to have you as part of this program. And I wanted to bestow this gift upon you with a few items that I think you will enjoy, poetry-focused and spoken word focused. So please give her another round of applause. And Nimwenen, thank you. And thank all of you again for joining us. That concludes our program for the day. And I will leave you with saying a quick I am going now.